Hmm. It is sunny out today. But let's see if we can get back in. There we go. So, in our previous adventures, we had finally died and came back. If I recall correctly, did a little bit of maintenance stuff and then kind of just called it. And holy crap, I'm having about like 20 seconds of latency. Jeez. The joys of Comcast, I guess. Oh well. One of these days I'll see about getting a new SSD for video games. Right now I'm running off of one of those hybrid solid state / regular drive hybrids. It's I mean, it's good enough, but it generally only helps if you play the same game frequently, and I haven't really been doing much of that lately. Like, I stopped playing Monster Hunter for quite some time. Just kind of not lost interest in it so much as the challenges that were there I didn't feel like participating in. I mean, you know, there's the Witcher quest, but doing the high rank version of that solo is just more of a pain in the ass than I'm willing to invest effort into. And I mean, it's like all the group stuff I just don't want to deal with. Then I've been playing WoW for the last couple of months, but I need to stop that. Playing WoW is bad for my my physical health, my mental health, my financial health, and just WoW leads me down a fairly self-destructive path that I just can't get involved in anymore. So I stopped that. I think about, you know, logging in every so often just to get the daily done, or, you know, or run one of my tunes through Icecrown for a chance at the mount, and I don't, you know. It's kind of annoying because I was talking to my therapist about it, and back when I started playing WoW, I mentioned to her that I resubscribed, and she said, "Oh wow, that's cool," and I said, "No, that's bad." And we've had conversations about it recently, and you know, I tell her it's not an addiction because I can quit whenever I want, but she doesn't, I guess, really believe that. You know, I mean, I don't know if it's like just inherent in therapists to think that you have like addictive. Is that what you'd call them? Like addictive traits, or traits of becoming easily addicted to things, and I'm sure I do for some things, but I broke myself of WoW a few years back, and I I can literally pick it up and put it down whenever I want because I haven't played it in a while, and my sub is gonna end soon anyway. I should make sure that that's not an auto renew. So, god damn, takes a long time to load. We are looking at what, 3 minutes of loading? I mean, I'm not crashed. The screen's doing stuff. I don't have mouse on screen, but I mean, I know my computer's not frozen because I can see stuff on YouTube. Can't load up the Steam overlay though. Can I load up the Discord overlay? I don't know if Discord overlay pops up for that. If it can, it's not popping up here. Oh my god, this is boring. What can I do instead of just talking about my time with my therapist? So, people want to say that this is some Lovecraftian shit. I will pull out one of my Lovecraft tomes. And I got one of them fancy Barnes & Noble versions. Published by Barnes & Noble, right? H.P. Lovecraft. The complete fiction. Yeah, Barnes & Noble Press. It's got silvered pages and nice fancy cover. And if I was the type that had Twitter on my phone, I'd post a photo of this. But as it is, posting photos of real life shit onto the Twitters is a pain in the butt. There we go. So what should I read from? Dagon's a poem. Thotep, no. Actually, yeah, why not Dagon? Dagon's short. Written in July 1917, Dagon is one of Lovecraft's most forward-looking stories. Many of its features, a landmass suddenly emerging from the depths of an ocean, a mountain who may be one of an entire race of creatures dwelling on the underside of the world, the narrator's psychological devastation of at a monster's mere existence, foreshadow the Call of Cthulhu, and later stories where the supernatural has been replaced by the scientifically plausible. But as in Poe, it is the narrator's emotional trauma that is at the heart of the tale. The story was Lovecraft's first to be published in Weird Tales back in October of 1923, and these snippets are written by probably S.T. Joshi back in 2008. Oh my god. All my shit's old, man. I mean, I have actually older copies of Lovecraft stuff, but I don't have any like really old stuff from Lovecraft back in the like original printings and shit, like actual copies of Weird Tales and whatever. That would be boss, but that's expensive shit that I will never be able to own. So I have the nice Barnes & Noble editions back. I don't know if Barnes & Noble still does that. Huh. But anyway, here begins the reading. I'm writing this under an appreciable mental strain, since by tonight I shall be no more. Penniless and at the end of my supply of the drug which alone makes life endurable, I can bear the torture no longer, and shall cast myself from this garret window into the squalid street below. Do not think from my slavery to morphine that I am a weakling or a degenerate. When you have read these hastily scrawled pages, you may guess, though never fully realize, why it is that I must have forgetfulness or death. It was in one of the most open and least frequented parts of the broad Pacific that the packet of which I was supercargo fell victim to the German sea raider. The Great War was then at its very beginning. For modern listeners who are either youthful or don't know their history, the Great War is what World War I was referred to before World War II. So that, tells you when this is. I guess also the fact that it was published in 23 would tell you as well. And we're now looking at 6 minutes of loading at least. So, the Great War was then at its very beginning, and the ocean forces of the Hun had not completely sunk to their lower degradation, so that our vessel was made a legitimate prize, whilst we of her crew were treated with all the fairness and consideration due us as naval prisoners. So liberal, indeed, was the discipline of our captors, that 5 days after we were taken, I managed to escape alone in a small boat with water and provisions for a good length of time. When I finally found myself adrift and free, I had but little idea of my surroundings. Never a competent navigator, I could only guess vaguely by the sun and stars that I was somewhere south of the equator. Of the longitude I knew nothing, and no island or coastline was in sight. The weather kept fair, and for uncounted days I drifted aimlessly beneath the scorching sun, waiting either for some passing ship or to be cast on the shores of some habitable island. But neither ship nor land appeared, and I began to despair in my solitude upon the heaving vastness of unbroken blue. The change happened whilst I slept. Its details I shall never know, for my slumber, though troubled and dream-infested, was continuous. When at last I awaked, it was to discover myself half sucked into a slimy expanse of hellish black mire, which extended about me in monotonous undulations as far as I could see, and in which my boat lay grounded some distance away. Though one might well imagine that my first sensation would be of wonder at so prodigious and unexpected a transformation of scenery, I was in reality more horrified than astonished. For there was in the air and in the rotting soil a sinister quality which chilled me to the very core. The region was putrid, with the carcasses of decaying fish and of other less describable things which I saw protruding from the nasty mud of the unending plain. Perhaps I should not hope to convey in mere words the unutterable hideousness that can dwell in absolute silence and barren immensity. There was nothing within hearing, and nothing in sight save a vast reach of black slime. Yet the very completeness of the stillness and the homogeneity of the landscape oppressed me with nauseating fear. The sun was blazing down from a sky which seemed to me almost black in its cloudless cruelty, as though reflecting the inky marsh beneath my feet. As I crawled into the stranded boat, I realized that only one theory could explain my position. Through some unprecedented volcanic upheaval, a portion of the ocean floor must have been thrown to the surface, exposing regions for which innumerable millions of years had lain hidden under unfathomable watery depths. So great was the extent of the new land which had risen beneath me that I could not detect the faintest noise of the surging ocean, for straining my ears as I might. I fucked up that sentence. So great was the extent of the new land which had risen beneath me that I could not detect the faintest noise of the surging ocean, strain my ears as I might. Nor were there any seafowl to prey upon the dead things. For several hours I sat thinking or brooding in the boat, which lay upon its side and afforded a slight shade as the sun moved across the heavens. As the day progressed, the ground lost some of its stickiness and seemed likely to dry sufficiently for traveling purposes in a short time. That night I slept but little, and the next day I made for myself a packet containing food and water, preparatory to an overland journey in the search of the vanished sea and possible rescue. On the third morning I found the soil dry enough to walk upon with ease. The odor of the fish was maddening, but I was too much concerned with graver things to mind so slight an evil, and set out boldly for an unknown goal. All day I forged steadily westward, guided by a faraway hummock which rose higher than any other elevation on the rolling desert. That night I encamped, and on the following day still traveled toward the hummock, though that object seemed scarcely nearer than when I had first espied it. By the fourth evening I attained the base of the mound, which turned out to be much higher than it had appeared from the distance, an intervening valley setting it out in sharper relief from the general surface. Too weary to ascend, I slept in the shadow of a hill. I know not why my dreams were so wild that night, but ere the waning and fantastically gibbous moon had risen far above the eastern plain, I was awake in cold perspiration, determined to sleep no more. Such visions as I had experienced were too much for me to endure again, and in the glow of the moon I saw how unwise I had been to travel by day. Without the glare of the parching sun, my journey would have cost me less energy. Indeed, now I felt quite able to perform an ascent which would have deterred me at sunset. Picking up my pack, I started for the crest of the eminence. I have said that the unbroken monotony of the rolling plain was a source of vague horror to me, but I think my horror was greater when I gained the summit of the mound and looked down on the other side into an immeasurable pit or canyon, whose black recesses the moon had not yet soared high enough to illume. I felt myself on the edge of the world, peering over the rim into the fathomless chaos of eternal night. Through my terror ran curious reminiscences of Paradise Lost and of Satan's hideous climb through the unfashioned realm of darkness. As the moon climbed higher into the sky, I began to see that the slopes of the valley were not quite so perpendicular as I had imagined. Ledges and outcroppings of rock afforded fairly easy footholds for a descent, whilst after a drop of a few hundred feet, the declivity became very gradual. Urged on by an impulse which I cannot definitely analyze, I scrambled with difficulty down the rocks and stood upon the gentler slope below, gazing into the Stygian depths where no light had yet penetrated. Excuse me. The loading screen is taking for fucking ever. At once, all my attention was captured by a vast and singular object on the opposite slope, which rose steeply about 100 yards ahead of me, an object that gleamed whitely in the new bestowed rays of the ascending moon. That it was merely a gigantic piece of stone, I soon assured myself, but I was conscious of a distinct impression that its contour and position were not altogether the work of nature. A closer scrutiny filled me with sensations I cannot express, for, despite its enormous magnitude and its position in an abyss which had yawned at the bottom of the sea since the world was young, I perceived beyond a doubt that the strange object was a well-shaped monolith, whose massive bulk had known the workmanship and perhaps the worship of living and thinking creatures. Dazed and frightened, yet not without a certain thrill of the scientist or archaeologist's delight, I examined my surroundings more closely. The moon, now near the zenith, shone weirdly and vividly above the towering steeps that hemmed in the chasm, and revealed the fact that a far-flung body of water flowed at the bottom of the slope. Across the chasm, the wavelets washed at the base of the Cyclopean monolith, on whose surface I could now trace both inscriptions and crude sculptures. The writing was in a system of hieroglyphics unknown to me and unlike anything I had ever seen in books, consisting for the most part of conventionalized aquatic symbols such as fishes, eels, octopi, crustaceans, mollusks, whales, and the like. Several characters obviously represented marine things which are unknown to the modern world, but whose decomposing forms I had observed on the ocean-risen plain. It was the pictorial carving, however, that did the most to hold me spellbound. Plainly visible across the intervening water on account of their enormous size were an array of bas-reliefs whose subjects would have excited the envy of a doré. I think that these things were supposed to depict men, at least a certain sort of men, though the creatures were shown disporting like fishes in the waters of some marine grotto or paying homage to some monolithic shrine which appeared to be under the waves as well. Of their faces and forms, I dare not speak in detail, for the mere remembrance of them makes me grow faint. Grotesque beyond the imagination of a Poe or a Bulwer, they were damnably human in general outline despite webbed hands and feet, shockingly wide and flabby lips, glassy, bulging eyes, and other features less pleasant to recall. Curiously enough, they seemed to have been chiseled badly out of proportion with their scenic background, for one of the creatures was shewn in the act of killing a whale represented as but a little larger than himself. I remarked, as I say, their grotesqueness and strange size, but in a moment decided that they were merely the imaginary gods of some primitive fishing or seafaring tribe, some tribe whose last descendants had perished eras before the first ancestor of Piltdown or Neanderthal man was born. Awestruck at this unexpected glimpse into a past beyond conception of the most daring anthropologist, I stood musing whilst the moon cast queer reflections on the silent channel below me. Then suddenly I saw it, with only slight churning to mark its rise into the surface. The thing slid into view above the dark waters. Vast, Polyphemus-like and loathsome. It darted like a stupendous monster of nightmares to the monolith, and about which it flung its giant, scaly arms, while it bowed its hideous head and gave vent to certain measured sounds. I think I went mad then. Of my frantic ascent up the slope and cliff, and of my delirious journey back to the stranded boat, I remember little. I believe I sang a great deal and laughed oddly when I was unable to sing. I have indistinct recollections of a great storm some time after I reached the boat. At any rate, I know that I heard the peals of thunder and other tones which nature utters only in her wildest moods. When I came out of the shadows, I was in San Francisco hospital, brought thither by the captain of an American ship which had picked up my boat in mid-ocean. In my delirium, I had said much, but found that my words had been given scant attention. Of any land upheaval in the Pacific, my rescuers knew nothing, nor did I deem it necessary to insist upon a thing which I knew they could not believe. Once I sought out a celebrated ethnologist and amused him with peculiar questions regarding the ancient Philistine legend of Dagon, the fish god. But soon, perceiving that he was hopelessly conventional, I did not pursue my inquiries. It is at night, especially when the moon is gibbous and waning, that I see the thing. I tried morphine, but the drug has only given transient surcease, and has drawn me into its clutches as a hopeless slave. Now, to end it all, having written a full account for the information or the contemptuous amusement of my fellow men. Often I ask myself if it could not have all been pure phantasm, a mere freak of fever as I lay sunstricken and raven in the open boat after my escape from the German men of war. This I ask myself, but ever does there come before me a hideously vivid vision in reply. I cannot think of the deep sea without shuddering at the nameless things that may be at this very moment crawling and floundering on its slimy bed, worshipping their ancient stone idols and carving their own detestable likenesses on the submarine obelisks of water-soaked granite. I dream of the day when they may rise above the billows to drag down their reeking talons to drag down in their reeking talons the remnants of puny war-exhausted mankind, of a day when the land shall sink, and the dark ocean shall ascend amidst universal pandemonium. The end is near. I hear a noise at the door, as of some immense, slippery body lumbering against it. It shall not find me. God, that hand. The window. The window! So, 22 minutes into the stream, and we still have a loading screen. Wow. So, I think if I felt the need of giving a final verdict for this game, I could, just simply based on the fact that the game doesn't want to go. I did enjoy my first couple successful hours with the game, but this is bogus. Right now the screen's frozen because I've tabbed out and I had it in full screen mode, for the frames. But I did want to stream again because, they did send me a code, and I do appreciate that. But this is bogusly bullshit. So we're just gonna Alt F4, and I Alt F for YouTube. Whoops. Fuck. Okay. Let's just go there. Let's see. There we go. Okay. So let's see if I can shut this down now. There we go. Oh my god, it's freezing more of my windows. So yeah, this has been Fade to Silence. I think this will likely be the last time that I stream it, and given the difficulties that I'm having getting that done, I feel justified. Especially considering I can't even close the program now. So I will update the text from YouTube once I get a bit more control back over my computer and have a generally negative opinion of this game. In the meantime, I hope that everyone remembers to wear their seatbelt, brush their teeth, and try to be kind to one another.